Beamrider for the Atari 2600 is a fast-paced, space-themed shooter that stands out as one of the more unique and engaging titles of the console's early library. Released by Activision in 1983, the game has players control a lone space pilot defending a starbase from waves of enemies. While its concept may seem simple, the gameplay is surprisingly addictive and rewarding. Beamrider sets itself apart from other shooters of its time with its unique and dynamic gameplay mechanics. The player is tasked with piloting a ship along a beam that stretches across the screen, while at the same time fending off waves of enemy ships and projectiles. This simple yet effective premise creates an exciting, fast-paced experience that requires sharp reflexes and strategic thinking. As you progress through levels, the enemies become more numerous and varied, with different attack patterns that keep you on your toes. The game ramps up the difficulty at a steady pace, ensuring that it remains challenging, but not overwhelmingly difficult. The key feature of Beamrider is the beam itself. Your ship doesn't fly freely around the screen like in most traditional space shooters. Instead, it's confined to this narrow, constantly moving path. This means that the player must focus not only on shooting down enemies, but also on dodging obstacles and enemy fire, while keeping up with the beam's shifting motion. The beam acts as both a track and a form of constraint, making movement more challenging. While this adds an extra layer of difficulty, it also makes the game feel more focused and intense. The ship moves left and right along this beam, and you have to adjust your position constantly as you progress through each level. Beamrider features a wide variety of enemy ships, each with different behaviors. Some enemies simply fly towards you, while others swoop down or attempt to block your path. There are multiple types of enemies, and the challenge comes from learning the patterns of their movements and attacks. Some enemies also shoot projectiles, which you must dodge or destroy before they reach you or your base. As you progress through levels, the enemies become more aggressive, their attack patterns more complex, and their numbers increase. This constant escalation keeps the gameplay fresh, as you must adapt your strategy to deal with the new threats on screen. The more advanced levels introduce new types of enemies that add depth to the gameplay, forcing you to think on your feet. For an Atari 2600 game, Beamrider offers solid visuals. While the graphics are relatively simple by modern standards, the game does a great job of using the limited hardware to create an atmosphere of speed and urgency. The space backdrop, enemy ships, and the titular beam that you ride on are all easily recognizable and fit the theme well. The sound design in Beamrider is effective with each action, whether it's firing your weapon, destroying an enemy, or the sound of a missile launch, providing a satisfying audio cue. However, it's not particularly rich or complex, as you would expect from a system like the Atari 2600, but it's functional and fits the game's tone. The controls in Beamrider are relatively simple, which makes the game easy to pick up but hard to master. You use the joystick to control the movement of your ship along the beam, while the button fires your weapon. The ship's movement is responsive, and while the action can get hectic, the controls never feel too difficult to manage. Beamrider shines in its replayability. The game features a high score system that encourages players to keep coming back for one more round. The challenge lies in mastering the levels, improving your skills, and striving to beat your high score. While there's no real story or major progression beyond difficulty increases, the addictive nature of the gameplay and the desire to improve your score keeps players coming back. Beamrider for the Atari 2600 is an underrated gem that offers a fun, fast-paced experience with a unique concept for its time. Its combination of quick reflexes, strategy, and high-intensity gameplay makes it a must-play for fans of retro space shooters. While it may not have the depth or graphical flair of later titles, its simple yet challenging design ensures it remains enjoyable for years to come.